I'm really excited to be sitting here with my friend Julie Rife. And I remember the first time when I met you, it was years and years ago. I was lifeguarding, and I've always been into free diving, spearfishing, and all that stuff. And I was feeling pretty good about myself, like getting out there, throwing lobster parties for the lifeguards and doing all this stuff and feeling, pretty confident and all that stuff. And then I met you and saw the stuff that you were doing and the level that you were at, and it was, uh, it was humbling in a very good way because the level of spearfish and all the stuff that you were doing was unbelievable, and knowing you now and your family and everybody and all this stuff, your family story is really interesting, and your story is really interesting, so I'm excited to be here today and
Yeah.
talk with you.
Thank you for having me. Yeah, Casey, I know we go way back actually with your uncle John Parlett and
Yep.
my dad and my mom just adored him every time he'd come in. It was always like
And they lifeguarded together.
they did. It was
Yeah.
just, all those stories and just the history. But yeah, being raised in a family around the spearfishing world and the ocean, like I couldn't have asked for a better life, honestly. That gift of the ocean and just to feel the salt under your skin, and it's like your gills are open up and you become a fish, it's like when you're raised in the water. So it's kind of fun. My childhood, I basically was born with my feet in the water. My dad would always take me down to the beach and, ride the waves on those one of those little kickboards and stuff, and down at Salt Creek and Strands. I mean, that was my beach I grew up at. And trips to Catalina, snorkeling and sitting on my boogie board with a mask on and little duck feet fins, and watching my dad, spearfish yellowtail, white sea bass, calico, this was numerous trips that we would take. It was always a weekend adventure with my family. And my sister was, definitely a little more shy than I was. She was more into sitting on the boat, playing with dolls or watching from a distance. But myself, all I wanted to do was shadow my dad.
You've always gotten after it on the out in the
Yeah.
water and doing all
Oh,
that,
yeah.
yeah. I mean, the
Yes.
fish that you were
Yeah.
getting and all the free dive, I mean,
Right. Oh,
it's
yeah, it
next
was, like,
level.
such an adventure.
Yeah.
I think Jill and I both were that way. We always loved to go on camping trips, and my dad would do that. We would pack the Jeep full. My mom would go to get dry ice and Costco, or back then it was, Price Club, the good old Price Club, and we would just load the car up and do Baja trips when we were younger, so it was so much fun, just being that outdoorsy family, and living on the edge. And, we are just like everybody else. We just wanted to go have fun. And my dad's sport was spearfishing. His passion and drive since a little kid, that's what he loved to do. I mean, it really stems further back, when my dad, um, I guess you call it caddied him around in the water, when he was spearfishing and diving. And the 3 brothers were always down and, like, near between LA and Laguna Beach, Baja. They were always traveling and spearfishing. So, my dad's upbringing in the water was, um, you know, basically kind of the starting days, like the bottom scratchers and all those guys. I mean, my dad mentored those guys and, spearfishing and making their own gear in the garage to go diving and all of that. So, with all those tools that my dad picked up as a little kid and tinkering in the garage and even trying to make his own spear guns, I mean, that followed him through his childhood and into his
All that innovation and all that
yeah,
stuff
all of his
that everybody
adolescent
was doing,
years.
yeah.
So, you can kind of think of the connections with the people, the clubs that were being started, and where people would meet and gather and get ideas. And these guys, Wally Potts, Jack Bradonovich, these guys were all building guns, even Charlie Sturgill, these guys. I mean, it was wild watching all the gear develop, and it was all this, garage handcrafted equipment. And my dad was part of that chain, he just wanted to do that. So that hobby that just developed into making guns for him and his friends, It was a garage shop deal. Like, we had people popping up at the house, and the neighbors thought we were doing something shady. And, it was always a nighttime deal because my dad had his regular job at with Dual,
Yeah.
machine tool business, and so, with that, it was, come home 5 o'clock, have dinner with the family, and he was in the garage into the wee hours and spearfishing, and, of course, where was I? Hanging out in the garage with my dad.
Yeah.
So it's kinda fun.
Well, that's one of the things I really think is so cool, and over the years having, going out to your guys' shop
Mhm.
at the warehouse and seeing it. And you guys are all out there working together as a team, and your mom's working right there with your dad, and everybody's and to kind of take this, because as you said, I mean, there's a lot of people that were making their own spear guns and like doing I mean, there's a lot of innovation
Mhm.
in the free diving spearfishing world in, since the 40s, 50s, whatever. I mean, the
Mhm.
innovation in that realm is
Oh, yeah.
huge. But there's a whole bunch of people that were also doing it, but your family was your dad and you guys were able to take this thing and really turn it into something that's now like the best known name in spearfishing. I mean, it's
Right.
amazing. And so there's it's really interesting that journey of starting it, as a, your night job.
Right.
I mean, that's kind of like the sculpture work I do. I mean, it started off as like my day off job and
Sure.
night job from when I wasn't lifeguarding. And then, it kind of snowballed to the point where it became a 40-hour a week night job. And then eventually it required, it required my full-time attention. I did it full time. But I imagine that, the journey for your dad on the spear guns was something that it kinda just sort of snowballed over time and became something that eventually became something that he could sustainably do and do for the family business.
Oh,
Is that correct?
absolutely. Yeah, it was definitely I think the more I got involved in diving with my dad, I was more serious. I joined the National Spearfishing Championships. I was taking, bigger trips trying to hunt bigger fish because it was such an adrenaline rush. I honestly was so driven at the heart, from the beginning, but once I got that itch under my skin and my dad's eyes lit up and he knew, he told me, one day, he's like, if you can get those white sea bass, it would tickle me pink because these fish are the ghosts of the sea. Like, you need to, like, really know what you're doing in the water to, like, be hunting these things, and you gotta spend a lot of time in the water, and that was kind of my goal. Like, I just really wanted to get one of these white sea bass. So that day, um, it was 1996 at the Bill Kroll Memorial Tournament in Mexico. uh, I ended up shooting a 38-pound white sea bass, which everybody thought, because it was, like, mouth dropping, they thought I won 1st place, but it was actually 3rd place. But when I came up to the boat with this fish, there was kind of a funny story because I didn't have a dive knife on me, and I don't know why, but I ended up having to chew the kelp to get that fish out of the kelp, because it wrapped up so bad, and I remember the sun was kinda setting, and we're like, "Shoot, I gotta get this fish back to the boat before, we gotta get back to the weigh-in," and my dad was on the dock, and everybody had shot fish except for me, and here I pull up with this big fish. My dad's smile from ear to ear, I'll still never forget it, and just he has this, like, crackle laugh, like, he kinda, like, laughs out of his cheeks, and he couldn't stop. He was so happy, and he goes, Now I know that, like, this is serious." And he's like, "I'm building this business for you, for your family, your sister, like, this is" like, I didn't know if I wanted to take it any further, This was a hobby that he was just, is it gonna die off, or is it just something that would fizzle out? But no, he knew that he was building this, like, fort of people itching to get in the water and go diving. I mean, we had, Bob McKnight from Quicksilver. He would always go to Tavaru, Fiji, and he'd come every year, pick up a spear gun and take it to Fiji. And then the Fijians were like, "Your guns feed our island. Like, this is a gift. We're giving people gifts to land fish in the most remote places in the world." So that really I think resonated with my dad that, and knowing that I myself was taking a big role in the business, or having it kind of become my passion too as well.
Yeah.
Um, and he had me in the garage as a kid. I was welding, I was sanding, grinding, shaping the trigger mechanisms, tying the power bands. I mean, every shark fin tab that went on that gun, I was shaping it into the arch because it was like a square. I mean, it was so much like labor intensive. And here I was, 13 years old, learning all this stuff. So I definitely had it in my blood.
Yeah.
Um, but, and years later in graduating high school, my dad asked me, he's like, "Can you quit your job and work full time at Rife?" And then a few years later, well, that was 1993. So 99, Jill left her job and came and worked for the family full time. So it was kind of this growth that was like, wow, Rife just keeps, changing every year. It was getting a little bit busier, a little bit better, and we're opening up more dive shops, and we needed more hands-on family.
Yeah.
And my mom, of course, was always there. She was
Always.
always on
Yeah.
the phone. She was always printing price lists and creating, like, everything. She was kind of the backbone for my dad, was in the shop, and, of course, I shadowed him, and my mom was there, and my sister was doing a lot of marketing for our net sunglasses and, other things too. So she had a lot of that skill that really ended up, and that's why she's the CEO of the company today. Like, she's just so organized, and so, like, we benefit, or sorry, benefit. We complement each other, and we benefit from her, you know, knowledge of her years of experience with marketing and the computer, technical stuff, and organization. Me, oh my gosh, I could never do that.
Everybody's got their
I
strengths.
know.
Yeah.
Put me in the wood shop.
Play
I'm
it play
good.
to the strengths. But no, I think that's a huge thing, and I think that I mean, that's one of the things I've always really loved and admired about what you guys do because it's you guys have grown this together, and it's something that has I guess one of the things I really always your dad's I've always loved your dad. He's an awesome, great guy, but the one of the things I really have always admired a lot is the balance. Is finding that because that's such a hard thing, everybody's like, "Oh, find the balance," or whatever. It's almost an impossible thing to get, right? Where you can kind of find that equilibrium
Mm.
with the things that really matter in life, right? And the things that matter obviously is your family and your loved ones. It's, your things that you're passionate about. And obviously work's a big part of what we have to do in life too. So to be able to sort of blend that together in a way that works, where it's this mutually uplifting thing. I mean, I think that's really cool and something I think about sometimes too with with the business. And again, the sculpture business is a tough one to be able to hand off, but like my son Brooks is very into it. Same kind of like you,
Yeah.
right? He's in the barn with me every day. Like he's like, "Okay, what are we working on today? Like I want to do this, that, and whatever." And his enthusiasm and like that love and that drive and Koa's still pretty young, so he likes coming in, but we'll see what he ends up wanting to do. But Brooks loves it, right? And so it does kind of, seeing what you guys have done, it kind of gets me thinking like, what's the next step? Like, what's I mean, in a lot of ways, it sounds like your dad, in a way, stepped into building out the spear gun business almost as something to kind of bring you guys all together and as something to kind of hand as a legacy thing to hand off
Absolutely.
to you guys as this amazing thing that you guys can continue to grow. Looking at that and kind of thinking, okay, like what how do I pass along this love and enthusiasm and the skill set to Brooks and Koa if he's interested. But Brooks is so excited about it that and then where does it go? And then how do you make that? And then the gift of that is that if you do build something that you can hand off to your that you can not hand off because that's kind of seems like you're just giving
Right.
something that your kids can
You're
kind of take the
working.
reins and then
Right.
continue to build it out. Um, most people like when their kids graduate from like high school and they go off to college and then they go off to work and it's kind of their I mean, again, you read the stats on it, like they're gone in a sense, right? And you see them in the holidays or whatever you guys got the gift of all those years of time together, which again, maybe it doesn't always feel
Well,
like a gift
it's
sometimes, but
no, it's hard. Working for family's
yes.
definitely challenging. We've had our moments, trust me. It's like we used to have a little what do you call it? Like a little a printout and it was this woman with a grenade and it was like next to my mom's desk and it's like if that picture's up, don't mess with Jackie. It's the- she it's like shipping frenzy to step out of her way.
Yeah.
But honestly, we always balanced it. We're such a h I mean, I call our family just the Lampoon family. We're always so loud and so off on, like, left field sometimes, but we always rally back. We're always looking for a good time and enjoy life together. Like, honestly, I think we are gifted that we were able to work with my dad as long as we did and, to his last days. I mean, it was a blessing, and we miss him every day um but knowing the depth of what he has, like, built up and the pride that we have is huge because that we get to continue to carry on his legacy, his competition wins that his building of the spear guns and all of his world record fish, everything that he has ever accomplished. We brag about it. We talk about it and we keep his legacy alive. And people really admire that so much. And I think that it means so much more knowing that your family is involved with the sport in the business. Jill's not a huge spearfisher by all means, but man, she'll sell you a spear gun and she'll talk you through an
She knows it.
entire
Yeah,
catch.
it's in her
She
blood. Yeah,
knows like
yeah.
as if she has done it. Um, Myself, of course, I've caught some huge fish in my time and traveled the world and spearfished in remote places. Sometimes my parents were like, "Who are you gonna go meet?" I'm like, "I don't know, but I'll find out when I get there." And it was so much fun. I mean,
It's an
those were the
adventure.
days. It's a
Yeah.
little different, and I do get to enjoy that just like with Brooks. It's like you get to watch your children now unfold, um, and take on the passion, I guess, but not necessarily the reins yet because they're still learning. They're still like we're the teacher, and they're taking that energy and absorbing it, and they're liking it. They're liking spearfishing. They're loving the ocean. Brooks is loving art. Like, I think that's great. We're gifting them that. If it's something they wanna do, oh my gosh, I mean, you can't force them. So, if Sierra and Kaylin wanna be a part of that, and I know Sierra does, she's already expressed that to me.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
and she's gonna be diving in the National Spearfishing Championships this week. Yeah, on the 11th. I'm driving to Arizona, and she's gonna dive in the
I think it's
freshwater
and then
lake.
just the family it's again, I mean, we talk about, I look at some of these things and in a sense it sort of becomes a culture. It's a family culture,
Yeah,
where you have these things that you do and it just keeps kind of building or at least getting passed along generation to generation. But yeah, I think that was, I mean, that balance I think is amazing. How did, when that first started off, what, I guess getting back to sort of the business and like growing that out, like he was making the spear guns
mhm.
out of the garage and
Yeah.
doing that and selling them, and doing it. How did he get it to at what point, like, to be able to go and support the family off that, were there some, like, big transition points? Like, what were the did he I mean, did some big sales opportunities come along?
Yeah.
Like, what was sort of that tipping point? Because I've had some spots in my career, right, with the art stuff
Mhm.
where it's like there was a few things like, there's a number of pieces that sort of leveled it up. There's a few things that kinda did it, and then there was the tipping point of, of it just got to a point where, like, it
Right.
needed to happen, but, it took about 10 years of doing 2 full-time jobs. Like, what was sort of his path
Yeah.
on that?
I wanna say gosh, and I was still in high school at the time, but, from, selling spear guns to a handful of locals, Even my school teachers were like, "Hey, can you bring me a spear tip to school and I'll give you cash?" I mean, these were like, selling spear guns to the locals basically, and occasionally we'd get some people from either out of state or out of the country that heard about Rife guns, and if they were in town, we would have visitors come to the house. But, I think that pushing point of the neighbor, kinda complaining about my dad having a machine shop, wood shop thing in the garage to, us needing to have a different space and us going to one of our very first convention shows. Actually, it was like kind of, they call it DEMA. That first introduction was, "Okay, we need a booth, and these are all the dive shops that will come and look at your gear and wanna carry their product." And that a few orders that my dad got at the time, and I didn't even go to this first show because I was young and, it was my mom and my dad, and I think a handful of friends that, helped support him and set up the booth and stuff, and it was just a spear gun rack with, like, 5 different spear guns, that's all he had. And that first order or a few orders that he got was like 500 guns. He goes, "Oh, what am I gonna do?"
Yeah,
Like,
because
he
you
didn't
gotta
even
deliver
know.
on
He
that,
didn't even know.
yeah,
He's
and
like,
buy
"How am
all the
I okay, let's
materials.
see. I gotta calculate time. I gotta calculate material." So he started, on these orders that he just didn't know exactly when they were gonna be done, but when they're done, I'll call you and here you go. So then that kind of, I guess, in hiring a couple more people started the production line, I guess, so to speak. And I was still after school working in the shop, there was a little place off Los Molinos in San Clemente, and we had our garage shop there. And so that was kind of the first kickoff, really, where my dad and my mom both knew that things were kind of changing for the business. And knowing that there was such a huge respect level with spearfishing and building these guns, and there were some other guns already out there. There was, AB Biller, JBL, there was a lot of these other type of spear guns, but nothing quite like what my dad was building. These were quiet, powerful guns, and my dad was all about, like, big fish, but he did have a few small guns, for reef and local California diving. But that level of respect and knowing that he was feeding families and people, like, that's kinda where and like, his spear gun, he had a silencer on it, and not a lot of these spear guns had silencers, so it was a quiet, powerful, accurate spear gun, and that was kind of one of our slogans back in the day. And then it was fish for the future, be selective and just take what you can and feed your family and carry that respect level of the ocean and not try and ruin something by because there were some guys in Florida that my dad had bumped into, really good friends, and this was back when the Goliath grouper was open for fish take, and we had met some guys in Florida in the at the DEMA show, and oh my gosh, my dad's mouth was like, "Holy cow." He's like, "Yeah, these are prize fish and everything," but it was, like, too much for my dad to even handle. He's like,
Yeah.
"Whoa, this is like they're slaying so many fish," and, you
I've
know
always respected I really like I think the spearfishing. I mean, I got into spearfishing 'cause I was hungry and poor, kind of like and I like being in the water, but, I mean, it's a way to selectively go out and get food to supplement your diet,
Absolutely.
right? And so,
Absolutely.
like the getting lobsters and fish was something I could do, and I didn't have a whole lot of money at the time,
Yeah.
so I really upped my
You're right.
it propelled me to want to go out even
Oh,
more, right?
definitely.
But I think that, like, you guys have always promoted, like, just a respect for the ocean and
Mhm.
respect for the fish that I've always it's always resonated with me
Yeah.
because I think that and I think most of the guys that are out there that you see that are good are they have that and they're
Oh,
very respect.
absolutely.
They know that the fish, like, I mean, the guys, again, like you say, white sea bass, the guys that are hunting white sea bass know white sea bass better than anybody in the world ever could because you have to be successful with that. But there's so much respect, and I think that that's selective. I mean, the spearfishing is such a selective hunting,
Yeah.
a food gathering technique, and I think that it's really cool. And
Yeah.
you guys really have always promoted that, and I think it
Yeah, we
really
do.
it's kind of I think it's definitely done a lot for the culture of spearfishing as
Mhm.
well.
Well, we kind of really my dad, like I said, has always believed in, respecting your catch and, be selective and stuff, and, those few people that he had bumped into, that it was a business.
Yeah.
So and there are a lot of people that have businesses that's catching and spearfishing fish, and that's fine, and there's licenses and limits and
Yeah.
whatever to that. But, it was one of those things where my father was like, "I want my company to be known as, we are selective and we're, on that conservation side. We want to, protect our ocean so that we can continue to hunt and continue to catch our fish." So that message has always stuck with us as a family, and we hope that people will take that message and share it to their family as well. So carrying on that level, because there's so much, our oceans are being challenged constantly, and so we have to constantly be that advocate. I mean, we are, right next to the scientists. We see so much in the ocean, and we can be that true voice for what we want to keep
Yeah, I
pure.
think it's awesome. Your dad, basically you got those 500 orders, and you had to figure out how to fill them and
Oh yeah, it was
how to do that.
crazy.
Which is, I can understand that feeling, of kind of like you get something, it's like your wish comes true in a sense, and
Mhm.
then you've got to, it's like, oh, now I've got to deliver on this.
Yeah.
So that kind of forced, some
Right.
growth in the business,
Mhm.
and then from there, I mean,
Yeah,
it's
there
just
was a
sort of
point where my uncle Jim, who lived in Oregon, he was a woodworker, and so he was actually stepping in and helping my dad with some of the, gun stocks over there, and then would ship the raw blanks to him, and then we would sand them and get them, nice and smooth. I would spend hours sanding guns. Oh my gosh. But there was a lot of back and forth with my uncle, being a big help in some of the wood, as well as my dad doing it too. But they had a good teamwork, but then at one point it that only lasted for a little bit, where he was kinda helping because my dad was in a position where he needed it. He needed that help, and, from that Los Molinos shop, we were we knew with the few other employees that we had hired, we needed a little bit more hands-on. We needed more machines, we needed more space, so we ended up renting a warehouse, in San Clemente, and that's when the equipment came in and we had more help, and these guys honestly still are with us today. Like, it's
that's awesome.
amazing, our team, and my dad had really mentored and shadowed these guys into building the most, sought out spear gun, around the
Well, that
world.
says a lot. I mean, in terms of just the management, because again, when you have to start bringing people in and all that stuff, then it becomes, you know, people management and
Absolutely.
all the stuff that goes with that.
Mhm.
And the fact that they're still with you,
Their
and work, I
family.
mean, it's family. I think
Yeah.
that's huge, and I think that that's a
Absolutely.
huge thing, and all that kind of, I guess we'd call it institutional knowledge that they have
Mhm.
from all
Oh
that.
my
It's
gosh, no,
huge.
it's
There's a lot of
for
value in that.
real. It's
Wow.
really deep. And, we could never ever, you wanna trust these people with your life and your business, and honestly, we have some genuine people on our team. My dad mentored them, myself, and, we actually took, a bunch of our crew out spearfishing over the last summer, and they had so much fun. So it was kinda neat to see them kinda get in the water and put
Yeah.
put all the gear to work,
It's fun.
So
No, that's really fun.
it's really
Well, yeah, again, and it's just kind of a family thing. I mean, you bring people in, and it kind of, especially in those early stages, everybody has to wear a lot of different hats,
Oh, yeah.
including all the employees and all the people. I mean, it's kind of,
Absolutely. Well, and you have to think, you're working in a machine shop, you've got safety, you've got, the manufacturing, designing, and engineering, and making sure all the puzzles fit and everything's working and like clockwork,
yeah.
so
Because I mean, yeah, because the
it's
product, I mean,
so
it's a very
mechanical
specific
and very
product.
tedious.
Yeah.
Everything, obviously we have machines that help speed the process up, but I can consider each gun still very hands-on and very tedious work to
Oh, yeah.
every gun that walks out that
Yeah.
door.
Well, and then so I guess the other thing, just on the business end of it, obviously the guns, the spear guns are kind of the backbone of the
Mhm.
business. But over the years, I mean, you guys have branched into a lot of other different things and a lot of really cool products and different things like that. Obviously, the shirts and the bags and all the accessories, and then the fins, like all the free diving fins,
Mhm.
and the masks and all that stuff. And I mean, down to these new masks you guys just got in
Oh,
for
right.
kids, right?
Yeah.
Which is such a great way to kind of transfer this enthusiasm and skill to the kids. Brooks has a pair of your fins
Mhm.
and a mask, and he loves them, and it's
That's
great. And it's
awesome.
like, and it's high quality, good stuff, and it gets them where it's not. You're not out there like the kids aren't out with these crummy masks that are just filling with
Right.
water all the time and
Yeah,
all that.
our masks are top notch,
They're
and those adventure fins, it's our adventure collection with Rife. We love it, and honestly, we kinda went down that path with those accessories because the sport isn't just about spearfishing. It's about enjoying the ocean and getting your feet wet with your family.
Yeah.
And if spearfishing is something that, everybody eventually sees, past a mast and snorkel and fins, then that's wonderful. They get to, adventure in. But, everybody looks at Rife and they think, oh my gosh, this huge blue water hunting spearfishing brand and these big spear guns. And yes, we do have huge spear guns, but
Yeah.
we have a lot of other sizes that basically fit everybody's needs and then the accessories to follow. I mean, you've gotta be comfortable and you've gotta trust your gear, and that will give you the most memorable experience in the water that you will never forget.
Well, and there's all the layers, right? So you
Oh,
can
yeah.
take it, like, again, from entry level, little guy like Brooks that's just getting started with the mask and fins, to somebody that just is going out free diving around just to look around,
Right.
to maybe, getting in, and maybe you want to, but again, I think that like free diving and spirit, all that stuff, it's an evolution. And I think to be able, you guys have been really smart
Mhm.
about capturing the different layers of that evolution.
Absolutely.
And so, like, all the accessor like, is that, like, was that something that you and Jill brought into that a little bit more,
A
or
little
what?
bit,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, honestly, with when it okay, at one point, we just had the spear guns and then all the accessories, everything we build in-house. It's all American made. I mean, very little things were done outside of the garage, and then adding on some of the accessories like the dive knives, we, got those from, Italy, and our fins are from Australia, and we have our wetsuits made, and so those it's you gotta figure you gotta go overseas for that kinda stuff because there's not a lot of suppliers here, but we'll see what happens in the future now. But anyway, everything, like, honestly, I wanna say, like, 90% of our gear is made in the US. It's made in our factory. We make it from scratch, and it's a raw piece of metal or a raw piece of wood, and we handcraft everything. Everything works like a well-oiled machine. And that is so important. I mean, watching this sport from a child in a blink of an eye, we're here today and, still continuing to sell spear guns all over the world. And
Yeah.
people, I mean, the phone, what do you, the need,
Yeah.
everybody wants Rife.
Yeah.
We love it. It's like
I think it's
my dad
really
is
cool.
definitely very proud. We live and breathe our sport, our business, and we love it. It's, gotta keep that drive and yeah.
Oh, it's awesome, Julie. Thank you so much for
Yeah, for
coming down.
sure.
This has been really fun.
Appreciate it.
Thank you for taking the time.
Yeah,
This
well,
has
we'll have to
been
get in
super
the
fun.
water soon.
Absolutely.
Get Brooks in the water.
I can't wait. I'm looking forward to it.